Our attention now to the race for Virginia's 10th congressional district. Republican challenger Hung Cao has conceded to Democratic incumbent Jennifer Wexton. Christian Flores with the Cao campaign right now, and I think they're expecting a longer night there. That would be fair to say.
A little bit, and it all started about 30 minutes before his concession speech. He got up on stage, had mentioned that, they weren't going to give up. They're going to let this play out a little bit more, even pointed out that they thought they saw some anomalies, but didn't really provide any specific examples to that. So about 20 or 30 minutes pass, and then he gets up on stage, concedes by saying, "We live to fight another day," to the uproar of the crowd over here. So obviously a lot of support out here. Definitely a lot of thanking of the crowd over here. This was we've mentioned this all night. This was a district that Wexton had won by double digits in each of her first two elections to take over for this seat. This was, as you guys had mentioned all night, another indicator of how big this red wave could possibly be. I know everyone was paying attention to Congressional District 7 over there between Spanberger and Vega, but over here, because this had been such a reliably true blue seat, at least for the last two election cycles, you did have some outsiders kind of looking into this race to see, hey, if Republicans can flip this seat, it's a really, really good night for Republicans as far as taking over the control of the U.S. House of Representatives. But obviously that didn't happen tonight. Cal eventually conceded, even though going on stage a few minutes before that and saying he wasn't going to concede just quite yet. But that hope only lasted about 20 or 30 minutes or so. Now, just to rewind this a little bit, we had mentioned that this was a pretty reliably true blue seat. Wexton winning by double digits. President Joe Biden, winning by almost 20 points in this district against former President Donald Trump. Then redistricting happens. That's when the political boundaries are redrawn. And after that, Glenn Youngkin only loses by less than 2 points against Democrat Terry McAuliffe. And then, so you had a lot of hope going into this race that Cal could potentially flip this seat. Ahead of this night, you had Republicans needing to flip 5 seats to get control of the House, and if they got this one, it would have been a really good indication of their success that night. So, obviously a lot of disappointment, but also at the end, really a lot of thanking the crowd from Hung Cao. Definitely a lot more support than I think a lot of people had anticipated when he first entered the race as a relative political newcomer. But let's go ahead and toss to the soundbite of Cal conceding just a few minutes ago.
Put up a good fight, and we made our voice heard, right? I mean, it's, at least right now we still need to heal a nation. We need to bring everybody back together instead of dividing everybody.
And that part about wanting to heal a nation, not dividing the country, that actually is pretty interesting, because earlier this evening we learned from his campaign that he met with House Minority Leader Kevin McCarthy, and we asked what exactly they talked about, and he said they talked about this election and unifying the country. So definitely kind of continuing that message even in his concession speech. But obviously a long night here, like you mentioned, though they probably expected to go a little bit longer after that first time Hung Cao took the stage, saying that they wanted to play this out. But for now, it looks like he's going to go home. He said he wants to go home. He needs to work. He's got 5 children at home. So he was asked if he was going to think about another run for Congress. Hadn't really made any sort of decision yet. Obviously, this night is still pretty fresh. But for now, we'll go ahead and send it back to you guys in the studio.
Christian, one question for you real quickly. Let me ask you the role here that offense and defense played in this race. And I think it was very apparent, even going back to the television commercials, and Hung Cao was having to play defense almost from the very beginning. And when you're doing that, it's really hard to do anything other than you attack really hard. It's much harder for those attacks to stick when the perception is, wow, this guy's obviously not doing very well, and maybe I'm going with the other candidate.
It might be a little too early to tell what effect that might have had on this race, but like you mentioned, there was a fair amount of playing defense there. But when it came to certain issues, especially in the last couple of days, rallies in Loudoun County, Hung Cao definitely played offense on at least the school issues, the parents' rights in school, and then played a little bit of offense, as many Republicans in many races throughout the country, as far as tying Democrats to the economy, to inflation, to President Joe Biden, pointing to, waning approval ratings. So, as far as what effect that could have played in this race, it's a little too early to tell. Just looking at the results, it was still, a pretty tight race at the end of the day. And we did also ask Cao if, looking back, because there are a lot of Democrats in this district, I mean, after all, it's, a double-digit win for Wexton her first 2 terms. Obviously, we expect to be a little bit closer, but still a Democratic, at least leaning district. We did ask, hey, do you look back? Do you maybe do things a little bit differently? Do you maybe take some more moderate stances? For example, when it came to abortion or when it came to the classroom issues. And he said, he doesn't think so. He would do a lot of things same, and he was able to get a lot of people to vote for him that maybe didn't vote for Wexton the last time. At least that's what he and his team are saying right now. But for now, we'll go ahead and send it back to you in the studio.
All right, Kristen, thanks very much.